Algebra 1, Introduction. We are, yeah, and the funny thing was, didn't I say we were just doing the rest of these on this page? How far did I get to?
You did one.
Like number 1?
Yeah.
Okay. So again, just because I'm feeling really good now. All right. I appreciate you guys doing all the hard work for me. All right. I got a lot to do. All right. And I mean it. I'm fussing, but listen, it's because I know what's coming up. All right. I know what's coming up. And look, if it was like last week, the quadratics, where it was harder and a little bit more complicated, I got it. All right? I can be a little more sympathetic, but these are just following rules. All right? What is the square root of 64? 8. So check yourself. Right? And you can look for yourself now how much you failed on this. All right? You just check how many you got right. All right, now you see why I'm mad. I don't know how many times we did 50. If you didn't know what 50 was, you could look up back in the notes somewhere, and there's 50 in there somewhere. 50 breaks down to what? 25 and 2. So when you break it down to 25 times 2, 5, radical 2. Now, boys, is there something you don't know? Everybody okay with that? I mean, somebody actually wrote down the square root of 7 point something. All right, because you just typed in square root of 50 on your calculator. All right, is x to the 7th odd or even?
Odd.
Can I divide by 2?
No.
No. So I have to break it down. That's the same as x to the 6th times x. You good with that?
Yeah.
Is that what you did?
I got x, and if you don't make that outside, then x.
All right. So you got one right. So now I have x cubed square root of x. Good? All right. Number 10. 40 is not a perfect square. So I break it down to what? 4 and 10. Or what? 9 and 5. Brilliant. 40 is 9 times 5. 8 and 5. Even better. At least you got the multiplication part right. But still, 8 is not a perfect square, and 5 is not a perfect square. So you don't break it down to 8 and 5.
See, I was just looking for the perfect square, and that's all I did.
And you failed miserably because 8 is not a perfect square, and 5 is not a perfect square.
But 9 was.
Yes, 9 was. Unfortunately, 9 times 5 is 45.
Yes.
So my final answer here is 2x to the 4th radical 10. What?
Why wouldn't 10 be on the why wouldn't 10 be on the outside?
What's the square root of 10?
But if you
I'm
divide
just
by
asking a
2,
question. You're asking me. I'm asking what's the square root of 10? It's not a perfect square. Hear me? Listen, that's the answer. I don't know what you're doing on your calculator. There is no square root of 10.
Why don't you divide by 2?
The exponents. Exponents. Now again, I'm not mad she's asking me a question. Write that on as notes. Divide exponents by 2. All right, that's what you're doing. All right? Drew, you with me on this?
Yeah.
All right. Is a squared and b to the 4th a perfect square? Yes, because I can divide by 2. So the answer is? Yep. AB squared. What's that?
Got that one right.
Yes, good. 1 for what? 6?
Yeah.
Is that it? Very good. It's good results. All right. Here we go. 32. What does that break down to?
16 and 2.
16 and 2. We talked about that a bunch yesterday. Don't do 8 and 4. It'll take you longer. 16 times 2. M to the 6th. M. N to the 10th. N. Any issues with that? Boys? Hayes, you okay with this?
Yep.
Final answer. 4m cubed n to the 5th square root 2mn. Fix it, right? It's annoying.
I saw something like what I did last night. Like,
Yeah, that's what I was trying to figure out. That's exactly what I was trying to figure out. Ryan, right? You good on this now? All right, here we go. What do I do with 75? 25 times 3. X to the 8th, y squared y. Square root of 25. 5. Square root of x to the 8th. X already came out. There wasn't any extra x's. What? Okay. All right, we're on 20 now. 98 breaks down to what?
14 times 7.
No.
14 times 2.
No. What?
49.
46 and
14 times 7.
49 times 2. X to the 6th, x. Y to the 4th, y. Now, the reason why we're not doing 14 and 7 is because neither one of those is a perfect square.
Oh, I keep thinking that you can divide by 2.
No. All right, square root of 49.
7.
Square root of x to the 6th. Square root of y to the 4th. What's left behind? 2xy. Number 17. 4 and 5. 20 breaks down to 4 times 5. X to the 10th, y to the 4th, y. 2 what?
2x to the 5th, y to the squared.
Drew.
Yeah, I get it now. I got that one right.
2 in a row?
No, not 2 in a row.
All right, we're getting there then. Okay, number 14. Bella, what did you get? Shh, no, look up and just tell me what the answer is.
It's
Shh.
49 is 7.
Good.
7.
Slow down now. Take your time, all right? I don't. Dividing by 2 is a killer. I understand. Wow. That was so hard. The little thingy is not there. The radical is not there because all of them are perfect squares. Here we go. Let's have some more fun. Number 11. Go.
So it would be the square root thingy, and then
I'm at breaking down x to the 7th. How do I do that?
it would be x to the 6th plus x. I mean times x.
And then
And then it would be 5 times 5. Oh, 5 radical. Or the 2. And then 5. No 5. Oh, no, 5x to get the.
that's called a radical, not a thingy.
Wait, why don't you just go ahead and do like 5x to the 6x? Like, why can't you just do that?
Well, I broke x to the 7th down. Thank you, Nav. All right, x to the 7th is x to the 6th times x.
Yeah, I know that. I saw somebody that just like go ahead and put 25 and 5.
Yeah, we could do that. And listen, that's eventually where I want you to be at. Listen to me now, guys. After you do this enough, you're supposed to just look at that and say, for number 11, 5x cubed radical x. There's no work in that. None. But some of you are having a hard time with perfect squares. And what is a perfect square still? All right? That's just not lack of practice. That's all.
Why isn't there another 5 inside it?
What is the square root of 25?
Oh,
5. The square root of 25 is 5. Just like the square root of 49 is 7. All right, it's a perfect square. All right, here we go. Number 8, just like there's no thought here. 4x to the 8th. No thought whatsoever. You're just writing down 4x to the 8th. Here we go. Square root of 400 is what? 20. Slow down. What do we got here?
On number 8.
What's the problem?
Why can't you divide by 2?
You take the square root of numbers and you divide exponents by 2.
But why can't you divide
Shh.
x? Why can't you divide the x root 8 by 2?
You already took the square root of that. You only do it once. It's like this, remember, and it's a common problem. So listen to what she's saying. Listen, guys. Look up. All right, because I want you to hear me, even though you think you know. The square root of 81 is not 3. Some people think it's 3. Because the square root of 81 is what? 9. And then 9 is a perfect square, so why don't we just take the square root of 9 and make it 3? We already took the square root. It's like saying 2 times 3 is 6. And then say, well, I'm just going to go ahead and multiply by 2 again. Make it 12. Because you told me to multiply by 2. You take the square root how many times? Once. That's it. Square root of 81 is 9. Just because 9 itself is a perfect square doesn't mean we take the square root again. Does that make sense now? All right? Just because 8 can be divided by 2 doesn't mean we divide it by 2 again. Right? You do it one time. Now, square root of 18. You just look at that and say, negative 3 radical 2. That's what I'm hoping. If you can't and you don't know, now's the time you raise your hand and you say, what are you talking about? How did you get that?
I see how you get it. I still see that right away.
Because you don't see the perfect squares. You have to practice seeing 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, and so on. You're looking for those numbers in every number. All right? Those are the perfect squares.
Why is it between a negative outside radical?
You cannot take the square root of a negative. No two numbers multiplied together are going to be negative. Right? All right, let's see what we got. How many times have we done the square root of 32? If you don't know the square root of 32 is 4 radical 2, you just haven't been listening. Right? It's not 4 times 8. 32 is what? 16 times 2. All right? X to the 6th is what? X cubed. Next one. You should. Come on now. No. Thank you. 3x to the 4th radical x. And I always tell kids, if you said 3x cubed, that's a good mistake. I don't have a problem with you on that. Because you're looking at 9, because your brain is working with square roots, and so you're used to taking the square root, right? That's on the test. Guaranteed it's on the test. All right? Because you're trained to just take the square root of a number now. But you don't take square root of exponents. What do? You divide them by 2. Good for you. Go.
Wait, so where's x to the 4th?
Because, remember, you have to break it down into 9x to the 8th times x. Now you can divide this by 2. That's why that's there. Every odd exponent has to be broken down. Just like this. 12, I'm breaking down to what?
4 and 3, x to the 4th.
Come on, guys. You're getting better at it now. You're getting better at it.
It's 2x squared radical 3.
Good job. Finally, right? Feels good. All right? Know the rules. Learn the rules. Where you at? You getting there?
I've actually gotten it. I've gotten it. I'll show you after.
All right, you do that. 28. 4 times 7, x to the 8th, x, y to the 6th. Final answer.
2x to the 4th, y to the 3rd.
Everybody happy with that? Now, on number 18, can I break A down? No. So the answer for 18 was
10a squared radical x squared.
Wait, you just.
Oh, sorry.
I know that. Come on, Maggie. All right, cross out 21. All right, more practice. More practice. Here we go. I'm going to go down as quick as I can. All right. All right, square root of 8. Now look, at this stage, you should be able to say square root of 8 is what? 2 radical 2. Just know that. All right, most people do not know what the square root of 384 is. So let's say we don't have our calculator. I know it's divisible by what? 4. I know it's divisible by 4. All right, so we're going to write down, please, 4 times. Now, 4 goes into 38 9 times. 4 goes into 24 what? 6 times. Does everybody see that? Come on now, I'm trying to show you how to work on the harder problems now when they're bigger. You can't just type it into the calculator.
Where'd you get the 2?
Right, it's 24.
How'd you get 24?
Oh my goodness. Seriously, let's practice here, guys. 384 divided by 4. 4 goes into 38 9 times. 9 times 4 is 36. We subtract, make a 2. Bring down the 4. 6. All right, instead of doing the long division like you were taught in 3rd grade, now you just put the remainder up in the top left corner, and that's the number you're looking at. What? Yes, if you knew 64 went in there, I'm perfectly fine with that. All right, but most people don't know that. I'm just saying 4 was the perfect, or 4 was the one that I saw right off the bat. Now, 96 is 16 times 6. So now, listen to me. The square root of 4 is what? 2. Square root of 16 is what? 4. And the 6 is left behind. So my answer is 8 radical 6. Now somebody said, well, what if I knew it was 64 times 6? That's good. You should know that. But most people don't. Most people don't look at that and say, obviously 64 goes into that. Right, so you have to break it down into the squares, the perfect squares that you see. Yes?
Why don't you make the 6 like a 3?
3 and a 2?
Yeah.
Because 2 is not a perfect square and 3 is not a perfect square.
Oh,
You with me on this?
yeah.
All right. Now we talked about 80 yesterday. 80 is what? Yes, we'll do 4 and 20 since you don't remember it's 16 times 5. So we'll do 4 times 20. And then 20 breaks down to what? 4 times 5. Is everybody hearing me? All right, please don't just write down my answers. Participate. What you're doing is you're training your brain. If you don't train your brain, no one else can do it for you. You're starting to see numbers differently now. You're supposed to see the perfect squares. All right? Now, help me out. What's the square root of 4?
2.
What's the square root of 4?
2.
So they come out as a 4.
4 radical 5.
Yes, now you're getting it. 4 radical 5. All right? 128 is not hard to see that that's 64 times 2. All right, divide by 2, that gives me 64. You can do it differently. I'm not going to argue with you. All right, square root of 64 is what? 8. So now I have 8 radical 2.
Wait, why would you not put 8 into like 1, 2?
Because I only take the square root once. Very good. Question again. You hear me?
Yeah.
Good job. Keep asking. I don't mind. I mind when you come to class tomorrow and you get them all wrong and you didn't do anything for help. That's how I'm irritated. All right? Now, everybody take a look at 210. 210 is a great problem.
42.
Okay? Now, I'm not arguing with her, 42 times 5, but neither one of those are perfect squares. Everybody with me? But listen to me now. She said 42 times 5, so we're just going to leave it as 42 times 5. And then 42 is what? 6 times 7. And then 6 is 2 times 3. Are any of them there, any of the factors, perfect squares? No. None of the factors are perfect squares. So guess what? You cannot break down square root of 210. That's the answer. All right? There were no perfect squares in 210. There were no perfect squares in 210. 63. Now listen, I don't want you to tell me that 63 is 9 times 7. I just want you to tell me the answer is 3 radical 7. All right? Once you get smart enough to see the perfect squares, you don't have to break it down. Just like 12. I want you to tell me the answer is 2 radical 3. Now I get to 392. I have no idea. But I know it's divisible by what? 2. So I'm going to look at 2. So now let's do that. 2. 2 goes into 3 once with a 1 left over. 2 goes into 19 9 times with 1 left over. And then 2 goes into 12 6 times. Now once again, 196. Square root of 196. Let's say we don't know. Let's say we didn't know. All right, so let's break it down to 2 again. So then it would be 2 times 98. And then 98 is 2 times 49. There you go. All right, is everybody with me on this? Now please pay attention. Square root of 49 is what? 7. Now, how many 2's do I see? So they come out as 1 2. So times 2. And then radical 2. All right? Yeah, I don't care. Yeah, if you knew radical square root of 196 was 14, you should know that. I'm just saying some people don't, so they have to break it down. So my answer was 14 radical 2 unless you knew the square root of 196. Is everybody with me? And everybody should look at square root of 30 and say 6 times 5, 2 times 3 times 5. It doesn't break down. Square root of 30. Right? 200. What is that? 2 times. Oh, so the answer is 10 radical 2. All right, the answer is 10 radical 2. Continue on, going down the page. All right. Now the only difference is their number in front, correct? Well, what holds these two things together, guys? Multiplication, right? I have no idea about 294. All right? So I'm going to try to divide by 2, all right, because I know 2 goes into it. So that'd be 2 times 147. Everybody agree with that? Now, I know that is divisible by 3. How do I know it's divisible by 3? Because I added up the digits. It got 12, so I know it's divisible by 3. So this becomes 3 times. 3 goes into 14, 4 times with 2 left over. 3 goes into 27, 9 times. Now look, that just requires thought. Those of you guys who don't like to think are going to go, wow, that's impossible. All right, because you're lazy and you don't want to do the math. All right, it's not that hard to break things down. All right. Now, what perfect square do we know?
49.
49. The square root of 49 is 7 times negative 5. Negative 35. And what was left behind? What was left behind?
5.
What was left behind?
293. 6.
6. Thank you, Maggie. I knew after you said a bunch of numbers, you'd get to 6 eventually.
Because 2 times 2
Because 2 times 3, right? Okay, so now you have a good question here. This is how I'm trying to teach some of you now to reason better. So here we go. First of all, I said, what's the square root of 49? And now there's a 5 out in front. How do you think I got 35? That's what you should be able to say. Now, how did I get 6?
2 times 3.
There's only one way to get 6 with 2 and 3. Not 5. 6. We're multiplying. So even if you didn't know, I'm trying to tell you, you can figure things out. There's only one way to make 35 with 7 and 5. That will help you with the next problem. All right, here we go again. 320. Now, again, what did you say?
480.
All right, I'll do 480.
Can you do 16?
Yes, there's lots we can do, but she said 480. Now, do you remember yesterday what we said about 80? 80 was 16 times 5. Is everybody hearing me? 16 times 5. Now listen, please. What's the square root of 4?
2.
What's the square root of 16?
4.
4 times 2
8.
times 2.
16.
16. What's left behind? 16. What is left behind?
5.
5. You getting there?
So, wait, so you do the 2 that's on the top left times the 4?
Times the square root of 4. What's the square root of 4?
2.
2. Right.
Okay.
Okay, and then the other one is square root of 16. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Hurry up, you need to be listening for sure. All right. 98, we've done several times. 49 times 2, right? 49 times 2. What's the square root of 49? 7 times 8. 56 radical 2. Everybody hearing me? Connor Drinkard, are you with me? You know what we're doing? Hayes. Yep. All right. 112. 56 times 2, which doesn't help, but we can still break it down. And then 56 breaks down to, well, I don't like 8 and 7. Let's do 2 and 28. Now, why did I do 2 and 28? Because I knew the 2's would come out as a what? 2. Right? Now, 28 can be what? 4 times 7. Now, please listen to what I'm trying to say now. When you break it down, and you broke it down to this 2 and this 2, those two 2's come out as a single 2, correct? Because 2 times 2 is what? 4. Square root of 4 is 2. So you're always pulling things out in groups of 2. All right? So my answer now, please watch. 8 times 2 times 2 times radical 7. Right?
What did you do with the 4? Yeah.
The square root of 4. Watch me now, please. Watch, watch. Very, very important. This square root of 4 is this 2 right here. These 2 are this 2. This 8 is that 8.
Okay.
And they all come out as multiplication. So 8 times 2 times 2 is 32 radical 7. All right, number 29. That should just be boom, done. What is it? Very good. Negative 2 radical 5. We've done that a bunch. Hurry up. Faster. What's the square root of 144? 12. 12. Is there a radical left? No. 12 times 6. 72. Beautiful. All right. What's the square root of 144? 12. Yes. Because 144 is a perfect square. The square root of 144 is what? 12. And then 12 times 6. 72. All right. 512. It's kind of annoying. 256 times 2. Now look. That's a really good problem. 256. Now, try the square root of 256. 16. All right. Now, I do 256 enough to know that's a perfect square. All right, if you don't know that, you would just keep breaking it down. That's why I think it's important for you to know all the way up to 20. All right, the square root of 256 is what? 16 times 6. There you have it, 96, radical 2. What did we say the square root of 256 was?
Oh, 16.
16 times 5. Too slow. Thank you. All right, think of 175 as quarters.
25 and
How many quarters make $1.75?
3. Yeah, 3 man.
That was Maggie Cavicli, or Maggie Malaysia telling me 25 times 3 was 175. Very good. -5 times 25 times 7. So now, square root of 25. 5. -25, a radical 7. All right, 54. What does 54 break down to?
20.
What?
20.
27 and 2.
Tell us. 9 and 6. We've done that 100 times. Square root of 9
3.
times -4.
-12.
Good. Next. Square root of 45. Just tell me. No. All right, so that was 3 radical 5x. Listen, again, for tomorrow, I want you to do all of the evens, and then I want you to do all the way up to 70, guys.
Dang.
Evens all the way up to 70.
Just the even.
Because we did the odds. Thank you. No, I want everything up to 70.
Do you want to do like 63?
Yes, I guess we did the odds. That's a long
So Mr. Shaw, on like 30